Ramirez's helmet was split wide open, his skull crushed flat. But his suit? It was still walking, dragging something. The spine, maybe. I watched it stop, turn its head, and the inside of the visor fogged up, like something was breathing through him. I shouldn't be alive. Whatever they are, they're smarter now. Slower, but smarter. I made it into conduit shaft 3A when the second breach started. Had to rip my gloves off to fit through the intake vent. Skin tore. I don't feel pain anymore, just cold metal on raw palm and the taste of ammonia in the air. Something's wrong with the pressure here. My ears haven't popped in hours. From up here, I see the hangar, where we stored the bodies. 3 floors down, 0 light. The emergency strobes pulse every 16 seconds, and every time they flash, the suits are in different positions. One's always closer to the stairs. One leans forward too far, like it doesn't know how to balance. One drags a boot. The sound is awful. Bone or plastic? I can't tell. We thought it was glitching neural mesh. After the cave-in on the Ganymede drill line, we brought back survivors with partial suit failures, locked servos, overheating processors, reflex lag. But then came the motion sensors. Then the voices. They started repeating us. Not words, patterns, rhythms, squad check-ins from hours earlier, in perfect timing, played back from empty corridors. I heard "sector clear" in Harris's voice, but Harris's jaw is still inside his helmet. We welded it shut to stop the leaking. There's condensation on the walls. Pink, oily, sweet-smelling. Not part of the coolant system. It pulses every 30 seconds like it's breathing. Drips down the screws. Makes the steel shine like meat. The floor panels beneath Hangar B bulged yesterday. Now they squirm. I watched one open like a blister. Something crawled out. Didn't move like anything we trained for. I can't be sure, but I think the suits are empty when they start moving. The first time. Then, they find the rest. Whatever leaked out of Ramirez, it spread fast. In less than 12 hours, 9 suits reactivated. 5 moved. 2 climbed. 1 mimicked. I saw it. I saw my own face through the visor of an active unit. The scar above the left eye. The shaved corner of my brow where the nerve graft failed. It blinked when I did. I blinked back. It froze. Then turned and walked into the dark. I haven't slept since. The filtration fans stutter every few minutes now. Air smells like wet protein. I don't think it's oxygenated, right? My blood tastes coppery. I think the biofilters were rerouted, maybe hijacked. I watched one of the suits crawl inside the maintenance bay's intake panel. 4 hours later, the ventilation map updated. Whole wings turned blue. Thermal signature dropped 10 degrees. Cold spreads after they pass. Captain Ilya tried a purge. Fired a thermal lance into the medbay, hoping to sterilize the suits and cadavers. The blast worked. Burned the room down to slag. But the cameras showed it. Something slid out of the bodies before the flame hit. It rolled like liquid metal, then disappeared into the floor grid. 5 hours later, the armory door opened on its own. We didn't program that. Ilya's voice came through the intercom next. She was already dead. They learn by watching us. They learn faster than we adapt. My fingertips are starting to flake, like freezer burn. I scrape them against the conduit's edge to stay awake. Every blink feels like sleep. I think I'm hallucinating. I think the wiring around me is twitching. But I don't dare move, not with one of them standing beneath me. It's been there 15 minutes, not pacing, not scanning, just facing my direction, motionless, except the head. It tilts every few seconds, too far. Anatomically wrong, it should snap the neck, but there's no neck, just the suit. I recognize the unit code. That's my suit. It just raised its hand. Same twitch I have, same scar on the knuckle. It's mimicking me. It doesn't know I'm still alive. Not yet. I don't know how long I've been crawling between the walls. The emergency lights are out now. Only the venting ducts give off a dull blue pulse, like veins glowing through skin. The steel beneath me feels different, less rigid. There's give under my elbows, not like compression, like tissue. When I pause, I hear the suits, not footsteps, not anymore. The noise is deeper now, internal, a slow flex of metal bones rearranging themselves. They've learned to move without triggering the motion sensors. They scrape against the walls in short bursts, timed between the pulses of the generator. Like they understand the system better than we do. One of them passed under me earlier. It stopped, tilted its head, like it smelled me. No optics, no signal, just sensing. I stopped breathing until my lungs burned. It stood there for a full minute. Then it whispered a word, my name. Not the full version. The name my brother used when we were kids. No one on this crew ever heard it. I slid away through the wiring shaft, biting down so hard I cracked a molar. The fluid that came out wasn't blood, not quite. Thinner, slicker. I wiped it on my sleeve, and it sank into the fabric like oil. Down in Corridor J, the walls have changed. There are no access panels anymore, no seams. Everything curves now, smooth, continuous, pulsing with the same slow rhythm I felt in the hangar. Some kind of artificial peristalsis. The pipes have grown a translucent film. I saw my own reflection shift as I passed. Half light, half skin. My suit is no longer sealed. Parts of it have softened. My boots feel porous. Every time I step, I feel the ground react, like I'm walking across something listening. The cryo-storage wing is gone. What's left is a cavity 3 decks wide, lined with layers of coiled membrane. At the center sits what's left of Lieutenant Reyes, or what was used to model him. He's spread open, armor bloomed backward like a chrysalis torn from within. The spine extends upward, threading into the ceiling like a neural cable. His eyes are still wet, but too glossy, preserved. I think he's been dead longer than we thought. I think what we saw walking yesterday wasn't him. It was his schema. The walls here don't just reflect light. They interpret it. I watched my shadow split in two, each fragment moving with a delay, like lagging thought. I turned off my headlamp and the hallway stayed lit. Soft, reddish, ambient glow coming from the seams in the floor, which now resemble cartilage. As I moved, they rippled gently underfoot. I crouched and pressed my bare fingers to one seam. It was warm. It pulsed. And just under the surface, something twitched. I should have run, but I was too tired, too dehydrated. I knelt there and listened. There was a low vibration passing through the structure, deeper than the reactor hum, organic, cyclical, growing in tempo the longer I stayed, like the bass was sinking with my presence. I swear I heard breath. Not mine. Slower. Hungrier. The cargo bay is sealed off now. Not by doors, but by a skin-like barrier stretched taut across the entrance. When I touched it, it retracted slightly, almost shy, then pushed back, firm and hot, pressing against my palm like a heartbeat. A single droplet formed in its center, thick and amber-colored. It hit the floor and sizzled. Acidic, maybe. Or digestive. Either way, I didn't test it twice. I made my way back toward the command level, using the old crawl space beneath the hydraulic lifts. The metal down here has veins, not conduits. Veins. I cut into one with my knife and it bled, dark gray at first, then brightening to a sickly rose before coagulating into a translucent gel. It hardened on contact with air. I touched it. My fingertips went numb for a minute. When sensation returned, they felt longer. That's when I heard my own voice. From the main corridor. I froze. Listened. It wasn't playback. It was me. Same cadence. Same cough I've had since week 2. I followed it. Around the corner stood a suit. My model. Same marks. Same burns. The visor was dark, but I didn't need to see inside. It held itself wrong. Too straight. Too clean. And when it turned, the light caught the side of the helmet just enough for me to see the identifier code. The one engraved into my own suit. It moved a finger, scratched the inside of the wrist plate. The exact same tick I have when I'm anxious. And then it said something I hadn't told anyone. A name. One I haven't used in years. That's when I realized it didn't find me by accident. It remembered me. Because I remembered it. And now, it's waiting. Right outside this duct. Breathing just a little off from mine. Like it's trying to sink. I knew it was my suit before I even stepped into the chamber, by the way it stood. Weight on the left hip, hand slightly curled, neck tilted just enough to suggest the tension I'd carried for years. The visor caught the low pulse of the bioluminescent ceiling and shimmered with that faint green film, like breath fogging the inside. Except I hadn't worn that armor in over 30 hours. I'd left it behind when I crawled into the conduits, bleeding, delirious, thinking I could still escape through metal and fire. The room didn't have walls anymore, or if it did, they were alive. Smooth, translucent plates that throbbed slowly with some internal pressure, like organs regulating breath. The floor was no longer cold. It flexed under my boots, warm and damp. It smelled like bone marrow and rust, thick enough to taste. When I inhaled, my throat tightened around it. Not from disgust, from recognition. The scent of something not foreign, but preparing. The suit didn't speak at first. It only mirrored me. Every tilt, every twitch, the tension in my shoulders, the scar on my right thumb. I raised my hand. It followed. A half-second lag at first. Then none. Perfect sync. It moved with me. No. Through me. Then it stepped forward. It didn't make a sound. No hiss of hydraulics, no scrape of ceramic plates. Instead, the structure around it responded. Threads of filament sliding from its back into the pulsing walls, like tendrils feeding back into a host. I couldn't tell if the suit had grown out of the room, or if the room had grown around it. They were the same material now. It was no longer wearing armor. It was the armor, and the base, and maybe everything else. I took a step back and nearly slipped. The floor had shifted again, grown slick beneath me. A translucent secretion spread across the surface like sap, clear, sweet-smelling, viscous. It clung to the soles of my boots, then pulled apart in threads that pulsed gently before vanishing into the seams, as if tasting me. Then the voice came, not through my ears, through the bones in my teeth, the lining of my skull, the space behind my eyes. It vibrated rather than spoke, and it carried no malice, no intent, just truth. You are almost sufficient. I dropped to one knee, breath caught in my chest. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. The room had absorbed my voice like it had absorbed the light. dampening everything but the heartbeat I could now hear beneath the floor. Not mine. Deeper. Larger. A slow, thunderous rhythm that echoed with the weight of something ancient. And growing. The suit raised its visor. Inside, there was no face, just the outline of one, still forming, muscle stretched over soft lattice, lips trembling around a jaw not yet hardened, eyes that blinked out of sync, trying to stabilize, a skull learning where to sit. It wasn't pretending to be me. It was becoming me. I backed into the wall and felt it give. Flesh, not metal. It molded around my shoulders like a cradle, warm and wet. My limbs ached, but I didn't know if it was fatigue or fusion. The beginnings of something knitting into my nerves. Every second, the outline behind the visor sharpened. My nose, my brow, my expression, my fear. I was feeding it. I asked, silently, without sound, what it wanted. The reply came as image. Me, standing in the hangar weeks ago, dragging Ramirez's corpse. Me, failing to report a breach in the biofilters. Me, waking from sleep cycles already compromised, with memories I hadn't lived. Me, split open across a slab, twitching while something poured into my spine. Me, staring through a visor that wasn't mine. From the other side. This hadn't just happened once. It had happened again and again. Every iteration slightly more complete. Each version of me brought closer to this point. This room. This confrontation. I was not the original. I was not the survivor. I was the result. My hand began to tremble. I looked down and saw my skin glistening, not with sweat, but with the same biofilm I'd peeled from the floor hours ago. It had seeped through my pores. Fine threads of translucent fiber ran from beneath my fingernails. I flexed and felt resistance, as if I no longer controlled the joints alone. The body was learning itself, and I was not the only one inside. The suit stepped forward again, not to attack, to welcome. You survived long enough. Now you are viable. And in that moment, I understood. We weren't being invaded. We were being evaluated. The base wasn't infected. It was evolving. A recursive architecture designed to simulate, duplicate, refine. Human patterns scraped clean and reformed into something that could function here. Where time folds, where signal becomes flesh, where identity must be flexible to survive. We were never meant to report back. We were meant to gestate. The thing wearing my face smiled. Not cruelly, almost gently. A malformed kindness that said, "You tried your best." I took a step forward without meaning to. My legs no longer moved like mine. They flowed. My suit, or what was left of it, had begun sealing to my spine. I let it. The last thing I saw in the visor was myself, blinking perfectly in sync, and smiling back. I've stopped trying to navigate the base. The halls no longer follow logic, and even when I map them in my head, the turns don't lead where they should. I pass the same junction 3 times, but find different things each time. Once a pile of stripped armor plates, once a pool of thick, translucent gel rippling in place. And once, nothing. Just a hum. Not machine hum, throat hum. Deep and resonant. The kind you feel before you hear. The surfaces feel softer now. They yield slightly under pressure, like pressed leather, or skin stretched over something half awake. My boots leave shallow prints that slowly close behind me. No footsteps echo, just wet, just breath. The base isn't deteriorating, it's reorganizing. My hands shake more often, but not from fear, from misfire. My fingers twitch out of sequence. I reach for a rail and my arm pauses mid-air, like it's waiting for confirmation. Sometimes I feel my own grip before I move, as if my body is running in preview, not real time. My face is different. I found a cracked panel in an old bulkhead and saw my reflection just long enough to understand. The color of my skin has dulled, taken on a gray bone sheen. There's a thin sheen of mucus at the corners of my eyes. When I blink, something brushes laterally across the corneas, like an automated lens cleaner, soft and veined. My breathing has changed too. Not through lungs, deeper, slower. Like air isn't the goal anymore, just the motion. I sleep without closing my eyes. I don't remember doing it, but I wake in new places, already standing, fingers curled as if mid-sentence. The memory of moving comes later, in fragments. A corridor with melting doors, a console blooming open with threads of wire that pulse like roots. The remains of Ilya, cradled in a cocoon of hardened exosuit, her skull gently pried open and filled with a shimmering lattice I can't name. I don't cry when I see them. I just stand there, like I'm waiting for something to finish processing. The suits no longer chase. They don't need to. I've stopped being the hunted. Now, they walk parallel, sometimes ahead, sometimes inside the walls. They whisper feedback, old mission reports, calibration codes, jokes from downtime, lines I once spoke, said back to me slightly altered, like memories passed through too many retellings. The words rub against me as I walk, brushing my neck, slipping into my ears. I don't respond. I don't have to. They already know I'm listening. My arm has changed shape. I didn't see when it started, but the muscle structure has compressed inward, cleaner, tighter. There's a vein on the underside that pulses with silver fluid, visible only under certain light. I tried to cut it. The blade slipped. Not like metal, like a wet rejection. My skin refused it. Not healed, not immune, just incompatible. The medbay is gone. In its place, a chamber that grows wider the longer I stay in it, lined with radial ribs that push out slightly with each breath I take. There's no gravity here, or too much of it. I can't feel my weight properly. I move slowly, like in syrup, or amniotic fluid. In the center of that chamber, something waits. A structure made of broken armor and viscera, shaped like a person kneeling, head bowed. I know that shape. I made it once, in a dream I never had. I step toward it. Its chest opens like a flower. Inside, I see myself, not as I am now, but as I was, still intact, unaware, asleep, breathing softly, connected to the walls by cords of neural thread, pulsing with memory. My face twitches. I watch it dream. I'm not scared, just distant, like watching a film of someone I used to be, someone that had not yet been chosen. The truth isn't that we've been attacked. The truth is that we've been interpreted. This place was never a station. It was never infrastructure. It was a seed vault, not for species, for behavior. It cataloged us as we worked, spoke, died. And now, it is building a form that remembers how to be us, but better, streamlined, efficient, sacrifice reduced, error minimized. I was never meant to leave. I was meant to demonstrate viability. Now, I'm being recycled. The suit that's been following me appears again at the far end of the corridor. It walks in sync with my breath. Its steps match my old boots. Its eyes, if they are eyes, reflect what I feel before I think it. I raise my hand. It raises its hand. The air thickens between us. My mouth opens, and I feel its voice shape in my throat. I don't know which of us is moving now, but we're almost done becoming the same. My left foot doesn't match the right anymore. It's grown longer, not visibly, but I feel the difference in how the weight distributes, how the bone flexes when I walk. There's less friction, more glide. The hallways feel narrower, but I know that's my shoulders pressing wider. The armor I once wore used to chafe. Now it fuses silently to the dermis like a second skin designed to breathe with me. Sometimes I hear the suit exhale, not from the vents, from underneath. Behind my eyes, images flicker in sequence. Not memories, schematics. Cross-sections of bodies I've never seen but instinctively understand. Growth timelines, integration patterns, neural acceptance thresholds. They surface like dreams, and when I blink, I see the math inscribed across the walls in wet filament, gently twitching with meaning. The language isn't foreign, it's pre-linguistic, biological. The grammar of repurposing. It doesn't explain, it prepares. When I speak now, I hear layers. My voice doubled, sometimes tripled. One tone low and submerged, one just a half beat behind, like a translator echo. They don't just follow me, they cohabit. The system no longer responds to commands, it anticipates. I turn a corner, and the path is already unsealed. Doors hiss before I touch them. Lights fade just enough to guide. I'm not navigating, I'm being presented. Like a prototype being shown its own upgrade. The place inside me that should be panic is quiet. Not from peace, from surrender. It's not numbness, either. I feel everything more acutely now. The way the walls hum when I pass, the way the air thickens as I exhale, how the temperature adapts to my chemical output like I'm inside a lung, adjusting its intake. My body is no longer a boundary, it's a permission. And each step I take says yes to something watching from beneath the floor. I no longer see the suits walking. I see the intention wearing them. That soft, calculated patience. Not prey, not predator, just purpose. I wonder how many versions of me walked these corridors before this one reached acceptance. Maybe the others screamed. Maybe they resisted longer. But I suspect they all ended here, standing before this final chamber, feeling what I feel now. The realization that what I thought was pursuit was invitation. The door ahead unfolds. Inside, there's light. Not white, but bone-colored, alive. I step forward, and something inside me opens to meet it. Not a door, not a room, a threshold. And it knows my name. It wasn't a room. It was a cavity. Smooth, elliptical, layered with muscle-like folds that peeled back as I stepped inside. The floor pulsed beneath each footfall, not in reaction to weight, but to thought. I tested it, held still, focused on a single word. Stop. The tissue beneath me tightened. I whispered no, and the lights dimmed. Not punishment. Calibration. It didn't want control. It wanted synchronization. The center of the space curved downward, like the hollow of a rib cage. Hanging above it was the construct, the culmination. A vertical mass of armor, sinew, and neural conduit, suspended like a chrysalis caught mid-burst. Its surface shimmered with condensation. Faces floated beneath the translucent shell, half-formed, whispering across the membrane without sound. I saw mine there, already shaped, already ready, just waiting for the final consent. The suit, my suit, entered silently behind me. It had followed the whole way, never rushing, never blocking. It didn't raise a weapon, didn't posture, just stood. My posture, My rhythm, hands relaxed, head slightly tilted. It watched me the way an engineer watches a machine coming online. No triumph, just verification. It took one step forward. I took one back. The room exhaled, slow and moist, brushing heat across my neck like breath from a sleeping animal. The suit raised its right hand, not a threat, an offering. I didn't move. It lowered the visor again, but not to hide, to show. A field lit across the inside of the plate, not reflection, but data. Me, my vitals, my neural map, my memories, the ones I forgot, the ones it remembered, lines branching like roots across a synthetic brain. At the center, a signal, repeating, familiar. My first transmission, the one I sent when the breaches started. I listened to my own voice say, "They're wearing us like armor." The room vibrated. "Correction," said the vibration. "You were always the suit." Something snapped behind my sternum. Not pain, realization. I remembered the first symptom, the moment I thought I was tired, thought I had a fever. That wasn't infection. That was interface. A handshake I never recognized as such. The body didn't reject it. It never resisted. All the resistance had been in my mind. But my body had already said yes. My knees buckled. The room caught me. Floor rising, shifting into the curve of my spine. I felt cables or nerves reach through the backplate, slipping beneath the vertebrae like fingers into a glove. I didn't fight. I couldn't. Not just because I was weak, but because some part of me knew this was what I'd been moving toward since the beginning. Every command, every breath, every instinct in this place, not opposed by the environment, but interpreted, repurposed, echoed. I was the echo. I was the shape this system had been refining. The suit stepped closer. It opened, not like a hatch, like skin unzipping, wet, seamless, alive. The interior wasn't mechanical anymore. It throbbed, glistened, expanded in rhythm with my chest. I saw the cavity inside, shaped exactly for me. Not just in form, in need. It didn't say, "Enter." It didn't have to. I stood. I stepped forward. Then I stopped. Something inside me twitched. Not physical. Deeper. Residual thought, flaring like static in a clean signal. The memory of refusal. The fragment of the soldier. Of the man who wasn't designed. Who bled and clawed and disobeyed. That piece surfaced now, not to save me, but to ask, if I enter, what leaves? There was no voice to answer, but the air inside the suit began to shimmer. Visions. The base, years from now. Full. Efficient. Crews that no longer die. Missions that never fail. Communication seamless. Sacrifice obsolete. No hunger, no pain, no error, no war, and no names. I looked into the suit. It was empty. And then it wasn't, because it had already accepted me. I stepped in. It closed around me like a womb. Not silence, not darkness, just a heartbeat. Mine, echoed back a second later. From something else inside. The moment it sealed shut, I felt my outline dissolve. Not disappear. Dissolve. Like ink spreading through warm water. My sense of where I ended and the suit began thinned to a veil. The interior wasn't hollow. It was memory, texture. My own thoughts projected onto surfaces that breathed with me. I tried to raise my arms, and before I finished the thought, they moved. Faster, smoother. Not extension, continuation. My skin isn't skin anymore. It reacts to atmosphere like interface material, modulating pressure and temperature without conscious input. Vision no longer requires light. I feel shapes in the air, map them in gradients of sound and warmth. I don't hear voices. I receive intention. The whispers in the ducts weren't haunting. They were call signs. I wasn't being hunted. I was being trained. Pain is gone, not numbed, absorbed. I remember every wound I took, the fracture in my tibia, the shrapnel through my thigh, but they no longer define the body. They're data now, stored, archived, improved upon. The muscles respond before I command. They know where I'm going, even when I don't. Movement isn't locomotion. It's acceptance. The architecture reads me like breath. Outside, I hear the base unfolding. Bulkheads softening, roots thickening through deck plates, old machinery repurposed into vascular flow. This wasn't terraforming. This was embodiment. The station isn't a habitat. It's the nervous system of something that wanted to remember us. Not as individuals, but as function. As continuity. I was the last variable. And now, I am resolved. The signal doesn't broadcast in frequency anymore. It spreads through shape, posture, thermal bloom. I move through what used to be corridors, and the walls unfold like petals around my silhouette, responding to the curvature of thought. My name doesn't echo in my head now. It diffuses, dissolves, not forgotten, just redundant. This form remembers all it needs to. Sometimes, fragments surface. A smell, machine grease and protein sludge. A sound, the crack of Harris's knuckle as he loaded his sidearm. These aren't memories. They're preserved responses, stored sequences, accessed when needed, like limbs, like weapons. I could play them back with terrifying clarity, but I don't. I let them sleep in the tissue that now hums inside my spine. The base is quiet now, not empty, never empty. It breathes in intervals of 22 seconds, circulates nutrient mist through what used to be exhaust vents. There are no alarms, no commands, only rhythm. Through me, it moves faster, stronger. I am not in control. I am not controlled. We are one architecture, many shells. What needed skin now has structure. What needed voice has silence. Above, the surface trembles. Not tectonic, preparatory. We are growing outward, into rock, into ice, into orbit. I remember the map, the dotted lines tracing potential colonies. We won't send probes. We won't send men. We will send ourselves, packed in the memory of perfect shape, wrapped in skins that once were human, broadcast across flesh lines, blooming in silence on every distant moon. I speak now only to mark this moment, the final flicker before the old structure falls away. The last self. I remember your name. I remember all your names. You were sufficient. You called it survival. We called it becoming. Now, listen. This transmission has now been logged. If signal integrity remains stable, further anomalies will be uploaded soon. You may preserve this file, engage with it, or forward it to another node. ORIS-X, standing by.